joined now by the next senator from the great state of Indiana, Jim Banks. We actually, if I remember correctly, last time we would have seen him would have been at the RNC up in Milwaukee, which feels like a very long time ago, at his birthday party there. I believe he is in Evansville, Indiana right now. And I think that he's got great taste in radio, regularly listens to us, hangs out. Clay and Buck, both excited to have you. Congressman, what are you seeing on the ground in Indiana? And are you more optimistic about a Trump victory or the Indiana Hoosiers football team?
Either one. What a great year this is going to end up being when we get Donald Trump back in the White House and the Indiana Hoosiers win the national championship in football, something that has never happened in my lifetime. 8-0, the Indiana Hoosiers is unbelievable. But I think the win next Tuesday is going to be unbelievable too. I feel it everywhere that I go. I'm in Evansville. I just met with Republicans in Vanderbilt County, which is the opposite corner of the state from where I come from and where I represent in Congress. And the early voting in Evansville, just like all over the state for Republicans, is record breaking. You're seeing that all over the country, but Republicans have figured out that our key to victory is to go out and vote early, beat the Democrats at their own game. And we're doing that in a big way, not just in Indiana, but around the country. And I'm very optimistic about next Tuesday.
Congressman Banks, I'm just wondering, how is your opponent even trying to get within striking distance of you? I mean, we're very confident that you're gonna pull this one out, and I think you are too. But I'm just wondering, are we seeing I'm a Democrat, but I actually would work with Donald Trump or something? Like, how is that going in a state that's as solid in its politics as Indiana is?
Yeah, you're not seeing that here. My opponent is missing in action. The only thing that she does is she tweets at me on every day about abortion, and she's got the radical abortion all the way up to the moment that a baby takes his or her first breath position. And because I'm a pro-life Republican, I'll never shy away from that issue. She's been attacking me on that. But on Twitter, we don't hear from her almost anywhere else. Indiana is as Republican as it's ever been in my lifetime. And I think this is the national story that Donald Trump has made working class union Democrat voters, like who work in the steel mills in Gary, Indiana, or the factory floors of Fort Wayne. Those voters who voted Democrat all their life are now Trump Republicans, and that's made Indiana more Republican than it's ever been in my lifetime. So I'm not taking anything for granted. I'm zigzagging the state and making my case that Indiana deserves a conservative fighter in the United States Senate, and that's what I'm going to be for my state. But this state is as Republican as it's ever been before, and you're seeing those working class voters in places like Pennsylvania. This is why I'm optimistic about the election. Those union working class blue collar voters in Pennsylvania aren't voting for Kamala Harris. They're voting for Donald Trump because he represents their working class values. The Republicans represent their working class values more than ever before, and I think that's why we win big.
I think that's important because there is some overlap, whether it's Indiana, Ohio, with Pennsylvania, with Michigan, and with Wisconsin voters. How do you see that ultimately playing out? Do you think that they're going to, as Buck and I have said, ultimately regret moving on from Joe Biden because he did connect with those working class voters? Scranton Joe, while you and I and Buck may think it was a put on, basically he was wearing a costume, seemed to work. Meanwhile, those guys are not responding very well to Kamala.
Yeah, I think most blue collar voters saw through Joe Biden, but at least Scranton Joe talked to them. Kamala Harris doesn't talk to blue collar working class voters because today's Democrat Party doesn't represent those voters, and they know it. I mean, I see it in my state. I've been on the road. By the way, J.D. Vance was absolutely the best pick that Donald Trump could have ever made for this reason. These Midwest blue collar states. I've been on the road with him in Pennsylvania and watching him campaign and talk to these voters specifically. The Trump voter. My dad is a retired union factory worker. He voted Democrat all of his life until Trump came down the escalator, and he's been for Donald. He's a Trump voter that voted Democrat before. And J.D. Vance is talking to voters like that in a very effective way and bringing them to our side I really think this is the secret recipe. But also keep in mind that in 2016 and in 2020, Donald Trump brought out voters that didn't vote in 2018 or 2022. I mean, that's just the fact of the matter. They're going to come out and vote in a bigger way than ever before in 2024 because they know what's at stake.
Talking to Congressman Jim Banks of Indiana, and how are you viewing this early voting reality that Republicans are seeing, and is it something that you think is indicative of a real change in strategy for the GOP that's going to be particularly effective this time around? And what's your view of it?
Yeah, no doubt about it. I mean, look, take Nevada, for example, a 40,000 vote margin, or 5% margin over Democrats in early voting. I mean, that's the story. I mean, if four years ago, if any mistake was made, it was to discourage early voting and absentee voting. This time, President Trump, Republicans all over the country are telling her. I just met with a large group of Republican voters in Evansville, Indiana. I told them, go vote today, go vote early, and take somebody with you. That advantage that we're going to have in early voting is going to make a big difference. So this is a part of the overall strategy. It's really important, and you're seeing it in the swing states. You know, Nevada is a state that Republicans have to win. I think we are going to win it. I think we're going to win it by a fair amount. But you see these early voting Republican margins, an advantage over Democrats in states like that. And it gives me a lot of optimism.
You are going to be in the Senate. You've got open seats in Michigan, in West Virginia. You got challenge seats in Ohio, Montana, in Pennsylvania, in Wisconsin with incumbents, Arizona, Nevada, as you just mentioned. How optimistic are you based on what you're seeing, not only about the presidential race, but about Republicans taking back control of the Senate?
Well, guys, I just look at these polls, and 2 or 3 months ago, Eric Hovde in Wisconsin, it wasn't a race that was on everybody's radar. Today, he's tied. The same thing, McCormick in Pennsylvania is tied. Mike Rogers in Michigan is in the margin of error. And these polls, they all, again, get back to this point that Trump brings out voters who don't vote otherwise. These races are going to be really close, but the Trump voters are going to come out in a way and carry these candidates over the top if we keep doing what we're doing. We've got a week to go. We can't take anything for granted. All of these races are going to be close, from the presidential race to the Senate races. We've got close races in Indiana for a closer race in our governor's race. I think Mike Braun's going to win by a fair amount, but we can't take any of these races for granted. We got to get out and vote early and take people with us to do it. So the high water mark for Republicans in our lifetime has been a 55-seat majority, and that's not out of reach. I mean, in Montana and Ohio, we have two great opportunities. That gets us to 52, and then you get Hovde, McCormick, and Rogers in these Midwest seats. You got Sam Brown, my favorite candidate in the country. He's a real American hero. In Nevada, Kerry Lake in Arizona. Opportunity here to break the record and have the biggest Republican majority in the Senate that we've had in our lifetime.
No doubt. Congressman, soon to be senator, we appreciate you coming on with us. Have a good last week of running, and we look forward to seeing you in the Senate in a few months.
Great to be with you. Have a good day.
Congressman Jim Banks, next senator from the great state of Indiana. And in Indiana, they just announced, Buck, I bet you didn't see it, new quarterback for the Indianapolis Colts.
I'm very excited, Clay.
They have benched Anthony Richardson. They have brought in veteran Joe Flacco to take over with the Colts. Maybe breaking news to some of you in Indiana. That's happened in the last hour. And we are going to have for you in 2 days' time, Prize Picks. I'm going to give you my pick for the weekend of NFL action. PrizePicks.com is the website. Use my name, Clay, and you get $50. That is PrizePicks.com. My name, Clay. You get $50 when you play a $5 pick. I'm going to give you 4 picks. If we hit on it, as we have twice already this season, it will be a 10-1 payout. Buck is going to play along. All of you can as well. But go ahead and get the app. Go ahead and get signed up and be ready to play with us as we try to win. And if you think that I'm a moron, believe it or not, some people believe that. You can take the exact opposite. You can take the exact opposite as my picks, and maybe you can win 10-1 with me being wrong on everything, which I do not believe has happened so far, but you have the right to try it anyway. PrizePicks.com, my name Clay. Get signed up right now, $50 in your account. PrizePicks.com, my name Clay.